During a health crisis, a woman insists on a competent black doctor, while her condition worsens. "I don't want to be treated by that black doctor," the woman said upon arriving at the hospital, but minutes later she regretted it when she found out who that doctor was. Karen rushed into the hospital, face pale and hands trembling. She clutched her arm, trying to contain a pain that was consuming her. The emergency room was crowded, the smell of disinfectant lingering in the air, mixed with the faint aroma of coffee from a nearby machine. The tension was palpable. In the distance, she saw the doctor talking to a patient, and while she was being attended to at the hospital desk, something unthinkable happened. "I don't want to be treated by that black doctor," Karen shouted, shocking everyone around her. The eyes turned toward her, perplexed and disturbed. A nurse approached. "Ma'am, we need you to calm down. Your condition is serious, and we need to attend to you immediately." "No, I will not be treated by him," Karen replied, eyes wide. "Call my doctor, please. Dr. Almeida has never left me like this." The nurse sighed. "I understand your concern, but the situation is urgent. Dr. Marcus is an excellent doctor with a lot of experience. We need you to trust us." "How can I trust someone who doesn't look like me?" Karen raged. The atmosphere seemed to freeze, and the nurse glanced at the other patients, seeking support. Meanwhile, a group of healthcare professionals gathered in a corner of the room. Dr. Marcus, a renowned physician, watched Karen with compassion, aware of the prejudice he faced. On the opposite side of the room, a young woman named Emily was rushed in on a stretcher, trembling with fever. "What's happening to her?" a nurse asked as they connected monitors to check her vital sign. "She is in critical condition," replied another nurse. "We need to act quickly." Karen's screams continued. "If you don't call my doctor, I will leave," she shouted, her voice tense. "Erin, please listen," a nurse said. "You can't leave like this. Your health is at risk. Dr. Marcus is the best option we have." "I don't want to," she responded, her voice shaking with anger and despair. The atmosphere was charged, almost tangible. Dr. Marcus always knew he wanted to be a doctor. Since childhood, he was fascinated by the science of the human body and motivated to help others. However, his journey to becoming a doctor was not easy. During his college years, he faced prejudice and obstacles due to the color of his skin. Despite being one of the best students in his class, he was often underestimated or treated differently. After graduating with honors, he entered a highly competitive residency program. During residency, he excelled in difficult diagnoses and complex treatment. In a particularly challenging situation, Dr. Marcus diagnosed a rare condition in a patient that other doctors had failed to identify. His accuracy and skill were acknowledged. He knew he would still face distrust in his career. Despite his professional success, Dr. Marcus also faced personal challenges. He lived with his wife Maria and their two children, Anna and Pedro. Maria was a dedicated nurse and understood well the pressures and difficulties of working in the healthcare sector. She had always been Dr. Marcus's emotional support, encouraging him to move forward even in the toughest times. Moments from his family life showed the human side of Dr. Marcus. Family dinners, playing with his children, and deep conversations with Maria were essential for him to maintain a balance between work and personal life. Throughout his career, Dr. Marcus faced numerous cases that doubted his abilities. He was disrespected by a colleague who underestimated his skills and tried to take credit for a complex diagnosis that Dr. Marcus had made. Despite the frustration, he decided not to confront the colleague directly. Instead, he continued to work with excellence, and his reputation grew, earning the respect of everyone around him. Dr. Marcus not only focused on his career but also dedicated himself to mentoring young doctors and medical students. He believed it was important to help the next generation overcome obstacles similar to those he had faced. "Emily's situation was worsening. We need to stabilize her," exclaimed one of the doctors. "Her blood pressure is dropping." The glances were divided between Emily's panic and Karen's resistance. The emergency room felt like a battlefield. "I don't want to be treated by a black doctor." Karen's words echoed in everyone's mind as despair spread like a shadow. Karen sat in a corner, her face pale and her hands trembling. Pain in her arm was unbearable, but she remained firm in her decision not to be treated by Dr. Marcus. A nurse approached her, holding a tablet. Miss Karen, we just received word that Dr. Stevens, your trusted doctor, is on his way. However, we can't specify how long it will take for him to arrive due to traffic delays, the nurse said, looking worriedly at Karen. Karen took a deep breath, relieved for a moment, but the pain made her squeeze her eyes shut tightly. I will wait for him, she said, her voice trembling but determined. The nurse hesitated, exchanging a quick glance with Dr. Marcus, who was observing the scene closely. Ma'am, your condition is serious. Waiting could put your health at risk. Dr. Marcus is highly qualified and is here to help immediately. Karen shook her head, trying to push away the pain and fear. I prefer to wait for Dr. Stevens. I don't trust anyone else. Marcus approached, his expression serious yet understanding. Karen, I understand your decision, but I'm asking you to prioritize your health. I'm here to help until Dr. Stevens arrives. She looked him in the eye, struggling against the pain and confusion. I just need time. We'll monitor you while you wait, but please, if the pain increases or your condition worsens, allow me to help, Dr. Marcus said calmly. Karen nodded, feeling a bit more secure knowing her doctor was on the way, but still torn between waiting and the need for immediate help. Time seemed to pass slowly, revealing the frailties and prejudices that inhabit the human heart. Karen's pain intensified with each passing minute, her screams echoing through the hospital corridors. Whispers spread among the patients, exchanging meaningful glances. The other patients in the waiting room exchanged worried looks. A young man sitting next to her commented, "Sometimes the people you least expect can be the ones who help the most." The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone in the waiting room was attentive, waiting for Karen's response. She looked around, seeing the anxiety on the faces surrounding her, and for a brief moment, she seemed to hesitate. I accept, Karen murmured, her voice now almost inaudible. The tension in the emergency room heightened. Karen, pale and gasping for breath, looked at the clock every moment. Dr. Marcus, watching the scene from afar, felt the pressure increase. At that moment, a sharp scream echoed through the room. It was Emily, who had just collapsed. Dr. Marcus immediately turned and acted swiftly, helping Emily stop her pain shortly after she was directed to the medical room. A nurse approached Karen with a serious expression. Miss Karen, we've just received a message from Dr. Stevens. Unfortunately, he won't be able to come due to a family emergency. Karen felt a wave of panic. No, he has to come. I can't be treated by Dr. Marcus. I understand your concern, but Dr. Marcus is highly qualified and is here to help, the nurse insisted. Your condition is serious, and we need to act immediately. Karen looked at Dr. Marcus, who was calmly approaching. Karen, your health is at risk. Please let me help you, he said, his voice filled with compassion. She hesitated, fighting against her prejudices and the growing pain. Finally, the reality of the situation set in. Okay, you can help me, she said, almost whispering. Dr. Marcus nodded and quickly began to examine her. His skill and knowledge were evident, and soon he stabilized Karen's pain. You have a severe inflammation in your abdomen. I'm going to administer an anti-inflammatory and a pain reliever. We need to do some tests to confirm. As Karen was being treated, she felt the pain decrease. For the first time in months, she experienced relief. How did you manage to diagnose this so quickly? No other doctor could. It's a condition that I studied extensively during my residency. I've seen many similar cases, Dr. Marcus explained, with an encouraging smile. You're going to be fine. At that moment, Karen's son, Lucas, rushed into the emergency room. Mom, how are you? Karen, still under the influence of relief, looked at her son with tears in her eyes. I'm better, thanks to Dr. Marcus. Lucas looked at the doctor and smiled widely. Dr. Marcus, I didn't know you worked here. Guys, this is Dr. Marcus. He was one of the best students at my school. He helped me a lot with my studies. Thanks to him, I was able to get into college. Karen looked from Lucas to Dr. Marcus, surprised and embarrassed. You helped my son? Yes, I studied with Lucas and I'm happy to have been able to help him, Dr. Marcus replied humbly. Karen felt a wave of humiliation. Prejudice she held now felt like a heavy and unnecessary burden. She looked around and noticed the disapproving looks from the other patients. She felt isolated by her attitude. Dr. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I was unfair to you, she said, her voice choked. Dr. Marcus smiled gently. Don't worry, Karen. The important thing is that you are receiving the necessary treatment, and life will bring you exactly what you are capable of giving. Karen was lying in the hospital bed, still processing the events of the day. The sound of the door opening caught her attention. Lucas entered with a worried expression on his face. Karen swallowed hard, feeling a knot in her throat as Dr. Marcus left. "Lucas, I need to tell you something." "Sure, Mom. What happened?" Lucas sat down beside the bed, holding her hand. She took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "When I got here, I refused to be treated by Dr. Marcus. I said I didn't want to be treated by a black doctor." Lucas's eyes widened, the shock evident on his face. "What, Mom? How could you say that?" Karen looked down, unable to meet the disappointed gaze on Lucas's face. "I know, Lucas. I was nervous with severe pain and I was extremely unfair. I don't know what I was thinking." Lucas shook his head, trying to process what he had heard. "Mom, Dr. Marcus is not only an excellent doctor, he is one of the kindest and smartest people I know. He helped me so much in school, encouraged me to keep going when I thought about giving up." I didn't know," Erin said, her voice trembling, "but that doesn't justify what I did. I was prejudiced and arrogant. When I finally allowed him to treat me, he was so professional and caring." Lucas took a deep breath, trying to control his frustration. "Do you realize how wrong that is? You were judging someone by the color of their skin, not by their skills or character. Marcus saved his life, and he deserved to be treated with respect from the very beginning." Erin felt the tears start to flow down her face. "I know, son, and I am deeply sorry. I just hope I can find a way to redeem myself for this." Lucas looked at his mother, still shocked but also recognizing her genuine remorse. "Mom, the best way to redeem yourself is to change. Learn from this, and treat everyone with the respect they deserve, regardless of who they are. And maybe, one day, you can apologize to him directly." Karen nodded, wiping her tears. "I will do that. I will work to become a better person, for you, for me, and for everyone I may have hurt with my prejudices." Lucas sighed, squeezing her hand. "I know you can, Mom. We all have the capacity to change and grow. But it's important that you take this seriously." Karen looked into her son's eyes, finding a bit of hope in his gaze. "Thank you, Lucas. I promise I will do my best to be a better person." Karen nodded, grateful but also deeply ashamed. The atmosphere in the hospital, which had once felt like a battlefield, was now beginning to change. Dr. Marcus's understanding and empathy opened Karen's eyes to her own limitations. The news of Karen's refusal to be treated by Dr. Marcus quickly spread through the hospital corridors. The stabilization of her condition brought a sigh of relief to the medical team. But the incident had raised a red flag. Hospital director, Dr. Almeida, called an emergency meeting with administrators, lawyers, and members of the medical staff. "We need to understand what happened and ensure that something like this does not happen again," Dr. Almeida said, his firm voice resonating in the conference room. "Prejudice cannot interfere with medical care." All eyes turned to Dr. Marcus, who remained calm and composed. He knew this was a crucial moment, not just for his career, but the entire hospital. In response to the incident, the hospital reviewed and reiterated its patient bill of rights. The new version emphasized everyone's right to impartial and high-quality medical care, regardless of race, ethnicity, or any other personal characteristic. Karen received a copy of this statement and was invited to a meeting to discuss the incident. "We want you to understand your rights as a patient," the hospital administrator explained, looking directly at Karen, "and also to understand the responsibilities that come with those rights." Karen, still recovering, felt a weight settle on her shoulders. The administrator's words echoed in her mind as she reflected on her actions. The medical team, including Dr. Marcus, was interviewed about the incident. Marcus explained his actions clearly and detailed how he handles situations of prejudice in his work. Other team members shared their experiences and opinions on the importance of maintaining an inclusive work environment. "We face challenges every day," said Dr. Marcus, his voice filled with conviction. "But our commitment is always to the health and well-being of our patients. Prejudice has no place here." The hospital's lawyers consulted legal experts to discuss potential legal actions. They considered the implications of a patient refusing treatment based on racial prejudices and the need to protect the rights of the doctors and the hospital. Racial discrimination in medical care is a serious issue, said one of the lawyers, adjusting his glasses. We need to ensure that our doctors are not harmed by the prejudices of patients. At the end of that tumultuous day, as the doctors worked tirelessly, Karen realized that the true battle was not just in her health, but in her own perception of humanity. Karen was called in for a conversation with the hospital administration. She was informed of the possible legal consequences of her actions, including the possibility of being removed from the hospital's patient list if she continued to refuse treatment based on prejudices. Karen faced the harsh reality that her attitudes could have serious repercussions. If your attitudes continue to interfere with medical care, we will have to take more drastic measures, said the administrator in a serious tone. We need to ensure a respectful and inclusive environment. Everyone. As a result of the incident, the hospital decided to implement a training and awareness program for all staff and patients, focused on diversity, inclusion, and prejudice issues. Marcus was invited to participate in the development and implementation of the program, sharing his experiences and knowledge. Let's work together to create a more inclusive environment, Dr. Marcus said during a training session. We need to learn to see beyond differences and focus on what really matters, caring for people. Realizing the consequences of her action, Karen began attending the awareness sessions. Through these sessions, she started to understand the impact her prejudices, not only on her own life, but also on the lives of those around her. This process of learning and changing perspective was shown through emotional and reflective scenes. I never realized how much my attitudes could hurt others, Karen said during a session, tears in her eyes. I am learning to be a better person. The hospital officially recognized Dr. Marcus's competence and professionalism, highlighting his fundamental role in treating Karen and other patients. He received an honorable mention for his exemplary work, which served as a strong message against prejudice. Dr. Marcus, your dedication and skill are an example for all of us, said Dr. Almeida during the award ceremony. Thank you for your commitment to excellence and inclusion. Karen, in a conversation with her son Lucas, reflected on everything that had happened. She acknowledged her mistakes and committed to becoming a better person. Her journey of growth culminated in her volunteering for a cause of inclusion and diversity, demonstrating her complete transformation. I made many mistakes, said Karen, holding Lucas's hand, but I am determined to change. I will fight against prejudice and work to be a more compassionate and inclusive person. As she reflected on her actions, Karen promised herself that she would not let this happen again, starting by changing her own attitude. And in that moment she realized that true healing was not just physical, but also moral and emotional. Dr. Marcus's reputation as a dedicated and innovative physician had spread throughout the hospital and the medical community at large. The incident with Karen, though difficult, had shown everyone the strength of his character and the depth of his commitment to humanitarian medicine. The hospital decided it was time to officially recognize his contribution. Dr. Almeida, the hospital director, organized a special ceremony to honor Dr. Marcus. The hospital's event hall was filled with colleagues, patients, and community members, all eager to celebrate Dr. Marcus's exceptional work. We are here today to honor a physician whose work has been exemplary not only in terms of technical competence, but also in terms of humanity and compassion, announced Dr. Almeida. The audience applauded. Dr. Marcus took the stage, visibly emotional. On receiving the award, he gave a speech that deeply touched everyone present. It is an honor to receive this recognition, said Dr. Marcus, holding the crystal trophy that reflected the lights of the hall. But this award is not just mine. It belongs to everyone who believes that medicine should be practiced with humanity, respect, and compassion. Every patient is a person with a unique story, and it is our duty to listen to them, understand them, and treat them with dignity. He paused, looking out at the crowd, his eyes shining with emotion. We face many challenges daily. We must always remember our fundamental commitment, care for people. I thank all my colleagues and the hospital for creating an environment where we can continue to learn and grow together. The ceremony was a moment of reflection and celebration, recognition not only of Dr. Marcus's work, but also of the values he represented. This award sent a clear and powerful message against prejudice, highlighting the importance of medical care based on inclusion and human dignity. Karen, who was present at the ceremony, felt a wave of shame and regret as she listened to Dr. Marcus's speech. She had learned a lot since the incident. Seeing the tribute to Dr. Marcus solidified her determination to change. After the ceremony, she approached him. "Dr. Marcus," Karen said, voice trembling, "I would like to apologize again for what happened. You are an incredible doctor and an extraordinary person. Thank you for not giving up on me." Marcus smiled gently. "Everyone's journey is unique, Karen. The important thing is that you are willing to change. We can all learn and grow." At home, Karen reflected on the events of the past few months. Sitting at her desk, she opened her journal and began to write. "I have made many mistakes," she wrote, "but I am determined to change. I will fight against prejudice and work to be a more compassionate and inclusive person." She decided to volunteer at a local organization that promoted diversity and inclusion, determined to be part of the change she had begun to see in herself. Dr. Marcus looked at her with admiration, knowing that this moment of transformation was not just about them, but about everyone whose paths they would cross. The hospital, once a place of tension, was beginning to transform into a space of healing and empathy, where barriers could be broken and lives redeemed. And if you love stories that captivate you from start to finish, with surprising twists and unforgettable characters, you are in the right place. Subscribe now to our channel and turn on the notification bell to receive all updates. This way, you won't miss any episodes of our amazing narrative. Leave your like and share with your friends and family so more people can be enchanted by our stories.